Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode here on One Leeds, and we are joined by an old friend of the channel. Not old in age, obviously, Nancy. Goodness me, it's not a great start, but yeah, it's a friend of the channel, of course. Nancy, we had her on at the beginning of the season, and it's been absolutely chaos for me, but I'm sure for her as well in a role at the Athletic. And first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us, Nancy. And how on earth are you doing on this very, very blustery Thursday, the 2nd of January? It's very, very cold where I'm. I've currently got a hot water bottle on my feet, so there you go.
Yeah, it's chilly, isn't it? And definitely felt that Ellen Road yesterday. I was
Yeah.
wrapped up and zipped up as high as I could get on my coat. But no, all good. Everything going well for Leeds as well, I think, which helps. But yeah, all good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, it feels like since we last spoke, I mean, so much has happened. Obviously, we're doing sort of like a regular thing at the beginning of the season, and it was very much surrounded by transfers and obviously Leeds ended the window quite well. Ramazani and Tanaka coming in late, but how have you judged the season so far, Nancy? It's kind of, I guess it's been a little bit different to last season in terms of at this stage there were 10 and 13 points behind Leicester and Ipswich respectively. Now obviously Leeds at the top of the tree, which is very nice. A little bit of a bump in the road the other day, but on the whole, it feels like a sort of like nice upward trajectory at this moment in time for Leeds, doesn't it? It seems a little bit more peaceful than maybe it was previously, for now anyway.
Yeah, they're exactly where they need to be. Both in terms of points. I think they're still on that 2 points per game average, which is what Fark has been banging on about for the last year and a half. And we know that it's been good enough every other year apart from last season. So they're exactly where they need to be with that. But also, I think they've kind of proven that they know what they're doing in terms of the signings that they brought in the summer, because I know there was a lot of panic and in terms of how you'd replace those amazing individuals. And I think they've actually got a better squad this year in terms of the depth, not relying on just two or three really standout players that could obviously quite easily go as they did. But they've navigated that most difficult transition, and they're in the same position, like the same place in terms of points, but obviously a better league position. And I think everyone would have hoped that this year would have been less bonkers in terms of two or three teams being so competitive as it was. Starting to see obviously a nice 3 point gap as of yesterday open up, and it would be nice if that kept growing for Leeds, but where they need to be, and that's really healthy to not be panicking or any issues sort of coming into January. They can do what they want now.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It does feel like right now Leeds are a little bit more steadfast, which is great, and it leads us into the conversation again, Nancy, of we love this period, don't we? The transfer window, and you must be thinking, God, anytime I see Conor, he's asking me and talking about transfers, but it feels like I don't know if it's as pivotal as maybe we were talking about in the summer in terms of just getting bodies in right now. I mean, just from a personal perspective and watching Leeds week in, week out, and reporting on Leeds week in, week out, how do you feel the squad makeup is right now? You're just talking about a little bit more balance. Do you think maybe Leeds need to add in certain positions, or ultimately probably quite dissimilar to Sheffield United, who are potentially needing sort of 4 or 5 bodies in? Leeds are in sort of good spirits and a good position, really.
I think they're in a great position. I don't think they need much, but I think as the window unfolds, if they've not got Junior Firpo back, I do think maybe the fullback situation isn't so sustainable in its current form. Obviously, against Blackburn yesterday, Jayden Bogle going off with what turned out to be a dead leg, so it shouldn't really take a lot of turnaround. A lot of time out. He should be able to come back for Hull if all goes to plan. But you wouldn't naturally put Ethan Ampadu as your right back, and there was a bit of a tactical change to a back three anyway, as the second half rolled on. But yeah, I think that's probably a key area, because Max Verber's been pretty good as a stand-in at left back as well. But sorry, I think you just might want to touch more depth there, especially with with Sam Byram as well being probably playing more games than even he might have anticipated by this time of the season. And then there's the odd number 10 debate, but I think Brendan Aronson tends to have a spurt of games where he plays pretty well, just as everyone's about to say, oh no, we need another number 10. So I think he's been playing pretty well the last few games. And to be honest, and this was the position they were in the summer, they're very much of the opinion where in a position like that, which is pretty specialist and pretty hard to recruit for a reasonable amount of money, if they're not going to sign anyone better than Brendan Aronson, which would be quite hard, I think, for the sums of money that the 49ers would be willing to pay, they'll probably leave it alone. I think it's it's better than Aronson or probably nothing, because there are players that they feel could cover that area.
Yeah, there's someone who I wanted to touch on when it comes to, I mean, an athletic story as well. Nancy, I think it's Jacob Tanswell's reported it. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but he was talking about sort of Jack Harrison and a potential return to Leeds United. Apparently, Everton are looking at terminating his deal with Leeds because apparently they're looking at Jaden Philogene. Do we know anything about this? Do we think this is sort of a thing that could potentially happen? The Leeds going to have to, sort of deal with having Jack Harrison back in the ranks? Is that something that could be in his contract? Do we know anything on that?
I think there's the possibility, as in, contractually, like Everton could do that, and obviously it would be from the Everton end rather than Leeds recalling him or anything. So I think it would depend on what Everton do in terms of bringing anyone in. But it would be quite an interesting prospect in terms of, if he was then to rejoin Leeds, there'd be a decision there. I don't know if they'd look to send him out on a loan for the second half of the season, or whether they'll have, seen this coming. But it would be quite interesting because they're obviously really well stocked in terms of quality wingers. Whether many people would feel Jack Harrison is an upgrade on, Solomon or Ramazani, maybe you'd slot him in higher. I don't think he'd maybe be fancied ahead of Dan James at the minute because he's played unbelievably well. So and then Willian Onto.
Nancy, do you think that could be something that he's just literally just cut short then, and he could be coming back to Leeds? Like, obviously, is that something? Because obviously, with Jacob reporting it feels like that he wouldn't report that if it wasn't potentially a January thing that could happen. Obviously, with us encroaching into that period now.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility for sure. Like I said, I think it will depend on like Everton's side of things in terms of if they could get someone else. But yeah, I mean, it's sounding like that could be on the cards. Obviously, things change pretty quickly, but yeah, it could be quite an interesting situation for Leeds actually, and not necessarily something of their own making in a way. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how that develops, because obviously we're only 2 days into the window, but
Yeah.
it's it's out there in terms of a possible thing that's on the cards.
You wonder with that as well, like how that would, like you just said, when it comes to maybe departures, how that would work. 'Cause it feels like his stock has decreased a lot, doesn't it, Nancy? Obviously, with him being at Everton, it's not been great from. I think he's had 48 appearances. He's had about 7 goal contributions. I don't think their fan base is that enamoured with him either. I think it does feel like on that side that it's a very Dyche signing, and he's a worker, but maybe the production levels are a bit of an issue. Do you think it would be something that Leeds would, I guess, if they were to cancel his loan, Leeds would welcome back, or do you think Leeds would be very much trying to move Jack Harrison on again in this window?
Leeds have done really well at kind of bringing players, or Farker in particular, at bringing players back in from quite a tricky place. Aronson and Verba being obviously the two, but even Nonto last season. I do think that Harrison's probably further away in terms of being able, further down the road in terms of rehabilitating his image with Leeds fans or whatever. And he's done interviews and all sorts about his time at Leeds that maybe has set out his his position or how he feels he's been treated. I think the healthy thing would be for Leeds to maybe find him another loan. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think that they need him back in the squad, and Farke's a pretty good judge of character, so I think you'd learn pretty quickly if he didn't feel he was going to add to like the right environment in the dressing room, because that's one of his non-negotiables. So
Yeah.
I think they probably look at loaning him out again. But like you say, his stock, probably isn't as high as it was in the summer. Certainly not as high as when they got relegated from the Premier League. So finding the right place for him to probably put him in the shop window, and then see if if he can perform for the next or for the second half of the season, then try and get something for him in the summer. Unless they go up and feel, then he is probably he is a Premier League quality winger, isn't he? So you might then want him as part of your Premier League squad if they go up. But yeah, I don't think anyone would have seen this coming. So it's
Yeah.
how they plan for that, or whether they even planned for it, is really interesting.